I wake up in a room that smells like freedom and realize it's the most expensive kind of cage I've ever seen. Heat hums under the floor, a quiet luxury that crawls into my bones whether I want it or not. The carpet is soft enough to make me angry. Golden slats stripe the panoramic windows like a tame sunrise, beautiful, rectangular, and a little insulting. In the corners, tiny cameras blink with the civility of a butler. They whisper, "We're not watching you." They mean we see everything. The bracelets on my wrists are cool and smooth, not chains, polished bands that track pulse peaks and the flutter of adrenaline. I test them with my thumb and feel nothing but a discreet vibration. Acknowledgement. Not control. Good. I can work with that. Bergamot and smoke thread the air from the lamps. Soothing, if I didn't know better. Someone curated this like an exhibit. The captured Omega in his natural habitat. Look, children, how he pretends not to be hunted. I sit. The motion sends a polite chorus of data pings through the room. Micro-adjustments in invisible systems. My mouth is dry, tongue sandpapered. I reach for the crystal carafe on the side table, pour water, and drink until I can taste the minerals. Then, accidentally, I let the glass slip. It hits the carpet in silence, and doesn't shatter. Of course it doesn't. The rim catches the light, wobbles, settles, mocking me with its unbreakable grace. "Your reflexes are intact," a voice says. I don't startle. I refuse him that. He stands in the doorway, one hand on the frame, composed in a suit that looks like it could refuse wrinkles on principle. Tall, dark hair combed back without slick or gloss, like the style is a compromise with the idea of vanity. His aura, if he has one, sits tidy behind his eyes. Most alphas wear their power like weather. This one wears it like a policy. Kai Grayson, I say. Because names are knives when you use them first. Niko Vane. He steps into the light with the quiet of a closed book. Tea? I'll have whatever is not drugged. A thin smile, almost a technicality. Bergamot, no sedatives. He nods to the wall. A panel opens with an obedient sigh. Steam breathes into the room, and for a second the smoke note in the air leans sweeter. He pours. No theatrics. No clink. He hands me the cup with the deliberate care of someone who knows exactly how he'd like to be misinterpreted. I wrap my fingers around the porcelain and pretend he's not watching how steady my hands are. "You're in my house," he says. "My rules. You're in my field of vision," I say. "My entertainment." Another pause. He's good at those. Silences calibrated like instruments. "You're in my power. Get used to it." "Break me?" I tilt the cup and let the tea kiss my lip. "Stupid. Tame me? Won't work." He sets his own cup down. "I don't break assets." "Good," I say. "I don't break either." He studies me. Not with the blunt push of dominance, but with a mathematician's patience. I'm used to alphas who shove their aura at you until it fills your lungs. Kai's presence is the opposite. A drawn line on paper and the expectation that you'll respect the geometry. I take a breath and open my senses out of habit. Most of our kind trail light behind them, threads of color and feeling, fear flare, hunger spark, hurt smoke. We rid each other in the margins, but mine has always been opaque, like frosted glass. Beta training sharpened it to a blade. The Omega in me hid it under velvet. People hate not knowing what you feel. They call it deviance and build systems to fix you. Kai's gaze is calm, unblinking. I wonder if he can see anything at all of me. I hope he can't. I let the tea burn behind my teeth and set the cup aside. Then I stand, slow as prayer, and walk toward the window. The panoramic glass throws back a faint reflection, a ghost of my face, the bracelet's soft sheen. In the right angle, the camera's red pupil vanishes. I shift a step to the left, two to the right, until I'm standing in a soft blind spot where the glare eats the lens. I don't look back. The point is to let him choose the interpretation. "You found it fast," he says, voice closer. "You left it for me." I let a half smile happen. Polite men are the worst jailers. Polite men build long games, he answers. I finally face him. "And your game is what? Exhibit me? Breed me? Weaponize me?" None of the above. He glances barely at my wrists. Observe you. For science? I lift the bracelets. They pulse once, registering the sarcasm. You want data? I want truth, he says. I bark a laugh. In this town? Put it on the endangered list. The door glides, and another person enters. Mid-40s, neutral suit, posture of immaculate service. He smells like laundry and lemon oil. His aura is what you get when you sand down a man until he becomes an instruction manual. Mr. Vane, he says with an incline of the head. I'm Rive, the house steward. Please allow me to provide your orientation and safety protocols. Recite away, I say, stepping back into the center of the room like we're moving pieces on a board. In the event of medical distress, raise either hand to ear. The bracelet will notify the infirmary. Do not attempt to remove the devices. They will lock if tampered with. Public areas are free movement, except red corridors. Do not enter red corridors. What happens if I do? I ask. Alarms, Rive says, a metronome with eyebrows. Doors lock. Gas is released. Sleeping gas? I say lightly. Sleeping, if you are fortunate. Great. I smile at Kai. Your hospitality really bottles the sunshine. Rive does not blink. Housekeeping is at 9. Meals are on call, but chef recommends the schedule. Tell chef I eat when I'm hungry, I say. Tell the house I don't like being told not to touch things. Noted, Rive says. His face is the opposite of noted. Thank you, Rive, Kai says, not looking at him. Dismissed, the man leaves with the precise silence of a closing drawer. I exhale. You hire furniture that talks. Rive is order, Kai says simply. Order is how this city keeps blood off the floor. I've seen the floors, I say. Blood's a ghost here. It knows its place. His mouth tilts a fraction. Do you? I feel my pulse lift. A tiny hop the bracelets catch. They hum, fingerprinting the rhythm. I want to see the dashboard where my data turns into graphs. I want to salt his machines with false readings. I want, very specifically, to not want anything here. Let's continue testing, I say. If that's what this is, what would you like to test? How far my freedom extends. He gestures toward the door. Public areas, as Rive mentioned. No escort, no leash? I ask. I find leashes produce predictable behavior. I prefer the truth. I tilt my head. Here's a truth. If I walk out now, I'll be gone before your polite alarms finish the first syllable. You could try, he says. No heat, no dare. Just fact. I step closer, enough to smell the clean of his shirt and something like cedar behind it. His eyes are steady, and somewhere inside them, numbers rearrange. Why am I here, Kai Grayson? Because you survived something you weren't supposed to, he says. Because you were valuable to a man I don't trust. Because you're rare. Rare, I echo. Like a coin or a mutation? Like a closed book in a city of open ones. Maybe there's nothing in it, I say. Then it will be quick to read. My laugh is less harsh this time. I hate that he can do that. Peel off the anger without flinching. I hate that the tea worked. That the bergamot softened the wire behind my ribs. I pick up the unbreakable glass. Roll it in my palm. It makes the faintest ring against the metal band. You think you can map me? I think I can listen. Same thing, if you never plan to speak. I pause, watching the camera's red eye tuck itself into the glare. Do you always make your guests perform? He considers that. You're not a guest. Right. Asset. Specimen. What was the word you used? He doesn't grace me with a term. Instead, he glances at the bracelets again. They purr with a small light, and I feel the whisper of a scan across my skin. Nothing invasive, just acknowledgement again. Consent by omission. My least favorite trick. A gust of laughter yanks out of me, unexpected. You know what the worst part is? What? He says. This place is working. I gesture at the room. The quiet, the heat, the good tea, the cameras pretending not to look. It's civilized enough to make someone forget the door is locked. The door isn't locked, he says. I blink. Cute. He nods toward it. Try it. I walk to the door and lay my palm on the smooth panel. The seam warms. The panel slides. Air moves across my face with the cool of a hallway where less expensive cages breathe. A line of golden slats continues out there, marking distance like a metronome. Somewhere, faintly, a fountain laughs to itself. I look back at him. You actually plan on letting me walk around? I plan on finding out what you do when you believe you can, he says. My instinct is to bolt. My training is to wait. My code is to negotiate. Fine, I say. I'll play. I tip my chin toward the cameras. But I won't play nice. I don't require nice, he says. I require true. We stand in a shape of silence that feels almost like mutual respect. The bracelets taste the air and purr. The tea cools to a thin film, bergamot slipping toward bitterness. Orientation concludes, I say lightly. House rules noted. Gas ominous. Steward unflappable. Good summary, he says. He moves to the doorway, the room recalibrating around him, as if the architecture prefers him near its thresholds. He pauses, and for the first time, something like warmth brushes his voice. You're not a prisoner, Niko. No? I ask, genuinely curious what word he'll choose. He looks at me the way you look at a chessboard you've just realized is a map. You're an experiment. Heat flares under my skin, anger and curiosity lighting the same match. I could argue. I don't. The worst weapon is the one you sharpen for your enemy. Kai steps out. The cameras blink. Polite. Bergamot and smoke breathe in my lungs. I stand there with the door open and the hallway like a promise I don't trust. Freedom. In a beautiful box. I take one step over the threshold. The door, very carefully, does not lock. The hallway breathes like a lung lined with money. Sound dies in the panels. No heel clicks, no echo. Just the hush of climate and the idea of footsteps. I move anyway, because moving is a language, and I need this house to hear me speak. The cameras pretend to nap. I pretend to be fooled. I map with my eyes first. Gilt lines marching along the walls. The measured. Intervals of doors. The way the light pools without throwing shadows. Then I map with my body. The weight shift. The count of strides between. Corners. The microdraft at a junction that signals a stairwell. Every reflective surface becomes a periscope. A black lacquered vase. An art glass panel. The stainless rim of a fire cabinet. In those thin mirrors, guards turn into math. Angle, speed, cadence. The house tries to remove the noise of the world. I bring it back with me. Breathing. Dry pulse. In through the nose on 4, out on 6, hold on 2. My old instructor's voice like gravel in a tin can. The bracelets purr once. Note the drop in heart rate. And hush. Good bracelets. Good little snitches. Left, then right. Elevator doors polish my reflection to a rumor. I step in, step out, let the doors close without me. Watching the panel, I catch a red corridor flicker past on the map. A warning band like a vein. Noted. Rives pleasant disasters can wait. I drift, and I make it look like drifting. The trick is to be a tourist in a museum of quiet carpets. The winter garden unfurls out of nowhere. Glass on all sides, a rectangle. Of green trapped in a city that forgot what seasons feel like. Palms and ferns shoulder up to the glass. Citrus trees sweat ghostly sweetness. Somewhere, a misting system sighs rain. 2 guards in soft shoes do a loop at opposite ends, always just out of sync. Between them, a service door, half hidden by a trellis of jasmine. I slide into their rhythm, then cut across it. My reflection slips between leaves, doubles, halves, vanishes. Dry pulse. No aura flare. The bracelets yawn. The service door is a cheap thing in a rich house. White paint, tired hinge, a manual latch instead of a whispering panel. I feel the simple click under my fingers and the tug of a stairwell draft against my palm. Cool concrete breath breathes from below. I'm halfway through when the air tightens. Not a hand. Not an alarm. Just a presence like a note struck on bone. I'm told the garden is relaxing, Kai says from the other side of the trellis. I hold the door and look back through a lattice of leaves. He stands between palm shadows, no security detail, no visible hurry. His voice fits the place, calm water over stones. The jasmine complicates his cedar into something almost human. In theory, I say. In practice, it's a green room for performers. Are you performing? He asks. I'm rehearsing. For what? Exit lines. One of the guards pivots at the far end. The other pretends to study a frond. Neither comes closer. Either they're very well trained, or this entire moment was placed like a chess piece. Freedom within walls is still freedom, he says. Prison with a park is still prison. He doesn't argue. He doesn't reach for me. He only inclines his head toward the stairwell, as if asking the weather for a forecast. There's a service alarm 3 flights down. No gas, just doors. Kind, I say dryly. Accurate, he says. I could bolt. I could bounce off his politeness and run until the walls decide to remember their walls. But I look at him, and he's looking at me like he wants to collect the truth, the way other men collect art. I have always loathed being curated. Note for your files, I say, easing the door closed without letting it latch. A predator will choose the open path only if he trusts the ground. Do you? Not yet. I let the latch catch. The jasmine trembles like it has an opinion. He doesn't punish. He doesn't even sigh. There's a gym 2 corridors over, tactics library through it. If you're rehearsing, you'll need a stage. The bracelets hum questioningly, like I've gotten a present. I glance toward the misting system, which is very interested in not being part of this conversation. No leash, no cell, now a gym membership. You don't need punishment to show me who you are, he says. Lucky for both of us. I don't do well with whips. Something almost like humor touches his mouth. We don't own any. Your steward does. He calls them guidelines. Kai's eyes warm by a degree. Rive is order. And you are calculus? Context, he says. I snort and walk past him, brushing a citrus leaf with my knuckles. The skin releases oil. A bright sting under the bergamot. Fine. Show me your civilized pit. The training room is the opposite of the garden. Matte, monochrome, edges clean enough to draw blood if lines could cut. The floor is sensor responsive. Every step wakes a faint grid like a sleeping constellation. On one wall, a track of modular barriers reconfigures with a whisper. There's a rack of practice blades whose balance is too honest to be fake. A door marked library opens to a room full of slim, grim volumes, urban. Conflict simulations, de-escalation protocols, economic siegecraft. Someone curates these like recipes. I feel a brief, sour affection for whoever labeled them. A woman waits by the far console. 30s, clipped hair, clipped tone, eyes like gunmetal before the first rain. She wears a plain shirt that makes a badge unnecessary. Her aura pulses straight lines. If Rive is furniture that talks, she's a sign that says, do not touch and means it. Lena, she says, to save me the trouble of asking. Security operations. Niko, I offer. House cat. Her mouth does a small predatory thing. Your noise. Music, if you listen hard. Static, she corrects. Kai stays at the threshold, as if not to contaminate the lab with leadership. Lena designs our tests. I roll my shoulders. The bracelets take notes. The floor tastes my weight. And I break them. Lena taps the console. The room shifts. Barriers slide. Openings appear and erase themselves. A maze folds. Out of nothing like a pop-up book authored by a sadist with spatial gifts. Record is 29 seconds, she says. 1 error allowed. I step onto the waking grid. The world condenses into lines and possibility. Dry pulse. I feel the maze, like a second skin. Go, she says. I don't go. I wait for the first barrier to breathe. The slight intake of the mechanism before movement. That gives me rhythm. Rhythm gives me prediction. Prediction gives me the door before the door exists. Then I go. Left 2, duck, heel pivot, palm pressure at hip height where the panel always lags a millisecond. Through, shoulder roll, up. The sensors bloom under my feet like frost under boot leather. The bracelets purr, undecided between concern and applause. I cut a diagonal that should not exist and fold my body through it as the barrier decides too late to say no. 3 turns, 1 low crawl, breath flat, eyes on the negative space between what is and what will be. I slap the final plate, and the maze gives up with a theatrical sigh. 27, the console says. The silence after is thick and chewy. Lena looks at Kai as if his calculus displeased a deity. Then she looks at me like a problem that insulted her mother. Coincidence, she says. Statistics love the stubborn, I say, grinning before I can stop myself. Something like a laugh hides in Kai's breath. Lena hears it and goes sharper. Again. Happy to, I say, and I am, which is irritating. The second run is 28. The third is 27 and change, but the change is in my favor. Sweat beads at my spine and dries before it gets ambitious. The bracelets flirt with the idea of an alert and decide against it. My hands shake for one delicious second, then flatten. It's been a long time since my body got to be a weapon without also being a threat. Lena kills the maze, and the walls forgive themselves back into smooth. The system learns, she says, which is another way of telling me she's already rewriting the code so I never do that again. The system should tell the floor not to admire me, I say. It's embarrassing. Her stare could polish a blade. You'll slip, she says. Everyone slips. Then you should put cushions on your red corridors, I say. Kai's gaze touches a corner of the room, where a camera blinks its polite eye. Access, he says, and the door at the back of the library unlocks with a soft, thoughtful chirp. Lena swings toward him. Sir. He doesn't look away from me. Let's see what you do when the doors are open. You're enjoying this, I say. I enjoy accurate models, he says, and I ruin them. So far, Lena's jaw works once before she swallows the complaint. The asset increases risk surface. He does not reduce it. Noted, Kai says. I angle my head at Lena. Our goddess of do not touch is displeased. I prefer compliance, she says. I prefer charm. You lack it. I have it, I say. You lack receptors. Her mouth almost twitches, which is as good as applause. The library door leads to a corridor that isn't on the public map. It smells less like bergamot and more like dust and ink. The air of things kept because deleting them would be a confession. Shelves hold boxed files with printed dates in polite fonts. Someone's handwriting intrudes in the margins like a scandal trying to be small. At the end of the corridor, a panel accepts the bracelet's proximity and bleeps assent. A small tray ejects with a flat card on it. Matte, black, the house crest ghosted onto it like a secret. My name hovers in tiny letters, Niko Vane. The card is a key or a threat, depending on the hand. Kai takes it and hands it to me himself. The gesture is precise enough to be intimate. Temporary, he says. Sector access, as indicated. The card warms in my palm as it learns me. The house hums as it learns us both. What am I allowed to do with this? I ask. Whatever you're going to do anyway, he says. Dangerous answer. True, he says. I slide the card into the bracelet's seam. It kisses shut. For a second, I feel the house blink, like a cat that just realized the bird is inside. Anything else? I ask. He considers then, yes. Don't make me rescue you from my own walls. It's tedious. Then build less interesting ones. He inclines his head, leaving me with the maze's ghost and the library's dust. Lena stalks off to tell the system to despise me more efficiently. I stand in the corridor with a key I didn't earn and a freedom I don't trust and laugh under. My breath, because I can't help liking the game even as I promise myself I won't lose at it. On the way out, I thumb the card against the directory panel. It lists sectors in clean, bureaucratic type. Residence, operations, archives, medical, logistics. Then one line I don't expect, under a heading that has no softness in it. Sanctuary, dependence, refugee intake. I stare at it. The word children lives under that line without being printed. My thumb presses the card harder, and the panel, very politely, offers me a route. A museum of quiet carpets, a goddess of do not touch, and somewhere in this house, a door that opens to kids who shouldn't be here at all. I don't say it out loud. I don't need the cameras to annotate my thoughts. I just feel the itch in my bones, anger, curiosity, something old with a scar. Open doors, Kai said. All right. Let's see what they keep behind that one. Kai's office looks like a promise made to glass and kept by steel. The far wall is a living map of the city, a lattice of light that breathes with data, channels, of money and rumor, supply lines and truces, all humming like a nervous system. When I step in, the bracelets record the quiet leap of my pulse. It's not awe, it's recognition. Some people collect art, Kai collects context. He stands with his back to me, hands in his pockets, studying the network. The room smells like his version of clean, steel cooled by night air, cedar thinned to an outline. If presence had a taste, his would be mineral, a sip of water poured over coins. Hungry? He asks without turning. For answers? Always, I say. For food, he clarifies. Depends. Will it be drugged? Only with salt, he says, and the corner of his mouth moves half a degree, as if he regrets the joke and keeps it anyway. He leads me through a narrow door that an ordinary wall pretends is nothing. The private dining room is small on purpose, light low and warm. A round table, white porcelain, silver so modest you forget it's expensive. No staff, the kind of space where a person can be a person and a plan at the same time. We sit. 2 bowls of clear broth arrive via a panel I didn't hear open. Dinner without witnesses, I say, picking up the spoon. So, I get to talk, and your cameras only get to eavesdrop. Something like that, he says. I taste the broth. It's honest, stock and ginger, and the faintest hint of citrus. I reach for the salt, mostly because it's there. Careful, he says. I salt anyway. He watches, expression smooth. Dehydration is an effective tactic against an enemy. I didn't realize you'd try it on the soup. Consider it reconnaissance, I say, taking another sip. It's not ruined, but it's bold now. I deserve what I get. Do your rules include letting your guest sabotage dinner? My rules include finding out who reaches for the salt before tasting, he says. They tend to reach for other things first, too. Guilty, I say, and taste again. Still edible. Your chef survived. I'm relieved, he says dryly. We eat in a quiet that isn't awkward, just functional. The sound of 2 people fueling logic. When we're done, the bowls vanish with the same soundless apology they arrived with. The map on the office wall glows through the doorway like a tide. He slides a thin slate across to me. Dossiers. The inner circle of Lorik Hesse. The name sits on the table like a weight. Hesse is the kind of rival that makes a city grind its molars. He doesn't start wars. He cultivates environments where wars decide to grow. I scroll. Faces, dates, affiliations, purchase histories. Aura notes, written by someone who sees patterns like a religion. Kai's annotations are modern scripture, predictable guilt response at mention of siblings, aggression spike after insult to competence, fear used to manage fear. You see repeating shapes, I say. Loops, inputs and outcomes. Most people choose the same answer to the same pain, he says. They dress it differently. But the math recurs. And me? I ask, without looking up. He doesn't hesitate. You don't recur. You erase and rewrite. Like a glitch, I say. Like a countermodel, he says. Useful, if you're honest, I say. Dangerous, if you're not. I try to be honest, he says. Try harder, I say, and pick a name on the slate. The first ask is small but sharp. Identify Hesse's softest point, he says. Not the obvious kind, not a child, not money, something with leverage. I scan lines that want to become a picture. A man named Brecht, logistics, eyes too close together, aura noted as clean discipline masking contempt. A woman named Sarah, quiet accountant, too steady to be harmless. A cousin, loud, beautiful, predictably stupid. My eyes keep circling back to a diplomatic attaché named Miles, spelled Miles in the file, Miles everywhere else. The discrepancy is nothing. The discrepancy is everything. Your diplomat misfiled his own name, I say. That's a clerical error, Kai says. Is it? I close my eyes and let the voices in my head talk. I don't hear sound, I hear shape. Since the garden, since the maze, since that moment, my body remembered. Being a tool, without being a threat, something in me has been tuning. The world feels louder at the edges, chords under the speech, threads in the fabric. When I picture Miles, talking, the timbre in my mind flickers. True, true, true. Tilt. Not a lie. The heat of a lie tastes like nickel. This is a gap, a placeholder where a truth should live. I feel it in my teeth, like a badly tuned string. He lies gently, I say, not for gain, for alignment. Someone told him it's good for the project. Kai's attention tightens a notch. What kind of lie? Identity adjacent, I say. Tiny, constant, easy to ignore if you like the numbers he brings you. Kai studies me, eyes a shade darker. Is this new? Maybe it's always been there, I say. Maybe I'm finally bored enough to hear it. I tap the slate next to Miles' heart. This is your leverage, not to hurt him, to redirect him. He wants to be the smartest kid in class. Give him a different class. Kai's mouth twists, like he wants to smile and refuses on policy. You're suggesting I promote him. I'm suggesting you create a room where his lie isn't necessary, I say, surprised at my own certainty. He'll be vicious for anyone who builds that room. What do you want for this analysis? He asks. Want, I repeat, stalling because the word sneaks up with teeth. Access. To what? The gray sector, I say. Closed archives. He's quiet for one breath. 2. Temporary. Of course, I say. I'm not greedy. I just like good libraries. Noted, he says. The door sighs, and another presence slides in on reptile smooth feet. A man in his late 30s, tie loosened, smile sharp enough to open packages. He surveys the table with friendly envy, then looks at me like I'm a new app he isn't sure he needs. Miles Hart, he says, extending a hand. Kai, you started without me. Miles, Kai says, and something in the name is a decision. This is Niko Vane. Ah, the famous house cat, Miles says, grip light but firm. You've been causing storms in Lena's weather. Only microclimates, I say. She loves a warning system. Miles's eyes dart to the map through the door, then back to me. He's good, friendly, competent, a little too pleased with being tolerated by dangerous men. His aura is crisp lines laid over softness, as if politeness were a uniform. Lorik is restless, Miles says to Kai. He's scheduling a donor's brunch with 3 people who don't eat brunch. That's not a menu error, I say. That's a performance. Who's the audience? Miles's smile holds. You tell me. I will, I say, and listen. Not to the words, to the slight flattening in his tone when he says Lorik. True, the faint lift when he says donors. True, the almost imperceptible kink when he says brunch. False, not the fact of brunch, but the implication that it's trivial. He knows more. He's filing the knowing because he doesn't want to be wrong in front of the map. He's laundering a contract through a charity, I say. He needs quiet influence, not flashy money. He wants to be seen doing good where only the right people can see. Miles looks at Kai, then back to me, the way a man checks new shoes before a long walk. You get all that from brunch? I get all that from you saying brunch like you swallowed a lemon, I say. Kai doesn't look away from me when he speaks. Actionable? Yes, I say. You leak the charity's beneficiary list to a rival who won't be able to resist boasting about it. Lorik becomes cautious, delays, the momentum dies, or you wait and let him bind himself to the paper trail, then remove the paper. Depends on how much theater you want. Minimal, Kai says. Miles's smile thins. We could also break his legs, he offers, half joke, half test. Kai shakes his head once. We're not in that business. So we're still monks, Miles mutters. Accountants, I say. The dangerous kind. Miles gives me a look that could be admiration if it weren't so allergic to admitting it. You're very sure of yourself for a man who arrived in bracelets. I'm very sure of my hearing, I say. And my patience is rented. Don't waste it. He laughs, and it sounds real. Kai, your stray has opinions. My assets tend to, Kai says. I'm not an asset, I say. Miles's eyes sharpen. No? What are you? A variable, I say. Try to keep up. He likes that more than he should. Fine, he says. Variable, meet reality. Lorik's brunch is tomorrow. I'll get you a guest list. You'll tell me which 2 guests will panic if their secrets are applauded in public. Easy, I say. The ones who sit near exits. Miles nods, pleased despite himself, and collects his slate. At the door, he pauses, looks at me with a frankness that doesn't belong to a diplomat, and fires the shot he's wanted to since he walked in. Kai's weakness, he says lightly, is that he believes you can be understood. The words go through me like a wire pulled under skin. Something warms in my chest, ridiculous, involuntary, and irritation follows like a shadow. I don't want the heat. I don't want the mirror it holds up. I want a room without reflections. Then he'll be disappointed, I say. Or he'll be right, Miles replies, and slips out. We sit with the echo. The map hums. The city moves its money in circles. I look at Kai, who is looking not at me, but at the slate where Miles has become. Miles, the typo corrected, as if the room took a vote and changed its records. Temporary access, he says at last. Gray sector. 36 hours. 36, I echo. Ambitious. Enough to see what you do with it, he says. Open doors, I say. He inclines his head. Open doors. I should make a joke. I should reach for the salt. Instead, I sit there tasting the last of the broth, cooling on my tongue, and the faint afterbite of a word I won't say. Weakness. If he has one, it's faith in patterns. If I have one, it might be wanting to be more than a pattern. The panel beside us blinks green. The bracelet warms at my wrist, absorbing a new permission like a secret. Somewhere in this house, a corridor unlatches. In the gray sector, closed files wait with dust that smells like decisions. Eat first next time, Kai says, standing. It makes the truth easier to digest. Debatable, I say, rising. But I'll try. Try harder, he says, and for a heartbeat his mouth almost smiles the way a man does when he forgets to be a system. We leave the private room. The map inhales. The city keeps its own rules. And somewhere beneath our feet, a door opens in a sector painted the exact color of compromise. The medical wing smells like clean endings. Alcohol, linen, the thin blue of ionized air. Lights set to dawn, no matter the hour. Machines that agree to be quiet. I come for anatomy books from the tactics library, injury patterns, recovery curves, and find a different kind of mathematics at work. Through a half-closed door, a small sound, a child trying not to cry because she has been told that bravery is the cheapest currency adults will accept. I don't mean to stop. I do. Inside, the room is a held breath. A girl no older than 8 lies curled on her side, knees in hospital cotton. Her knuckles are white around a stuffed fox whose button eye has seen wars. A woman I recognize from the refugee intake sits rigid in a corner chair, every tendon in her neck praying. Monitors blink a polite green. Pain is tidy on the screen. Pain is not tidy on a face that small. Malik stands at the foot of the bed, sleeves rolled, hands scrubbed clean. He has the open, worried eyes of someone who believes medicine is a promise, not a transaction. He's too good-looking for a cynic, which is probably why he keeps trying not to be one. She's spiking, he says, voice low. Nerve pain. The block isn't touching it. What did the scan say? Another voice, familiar and not, because it's softer. Kai. He's beside Malik, jacket off, tie undone. He looks like a decision after midnight. There's a hitch in his aura. No, not aura, not with me. A hitch in his posture, a carefulness that costs. Inflammatory storm, Malik replies. We can ride it, but he cuts his eyes toward the mother. But, Kai nods once. The mother rises halfway, then sits again, as if hope is bad manners. What are you going to do? She asks, words thin as thread. Buy her an hour, Kai says. How? I hear myself say from the door. Because apparently my talent for not being where I should be has opinions. No one jumps. Malik shrugs one shoulder as if he expected me. Maybe he did. The boss cheats, he says, not unkindly. It isn't cheating, Kai says. He looks at me, and I've never seen that expression on him. Not authority, not calculus. Focus, stripped bare. It costs. The bracelets hum caution, as if they've heard the rumor of what he's about to do and are ready to be outraged on my behalf. I step inside anyway, press my back to the wall where the light is honest. Consent, Kai says to the mother. Yes, she says. Too fast. Then slower, strangled. Yes. Kai moves to the bedside and takes the girl's small hand between his palms, as if it's the handle of a drawer he refuses to slam. He closes his eyes. The air changes. Most alphas project weather, heat, pressure, the obvious vectors of wanting and willing. This is something else. The room narrows to a fine thread between his chest and the girl's pain. I don't see light, I hear absence, the way a storm sounds in the first second after it stops, when the world remembers it has edges. The monitors admit confusion. The jagged line trying to describe agony softens into a question mark. My skin pebbles. The lump in my throat is stupid and immediate. It feels like what I used to think about prayer before I taught myself to be practical. A minute stretches. 2. The girl's shoulders loosen by degrees. Her fox slides from a fist to a hand. Kai keeps his hands where they are long after my body wants him to stop. Malik watches him the way engineers watch bridges in wind. Finally, Kai exhales and lets go. The pain drifts back, not gone but demoted. The monitors find their manners again. The girl scrunches her face like she's listening to rain move farther away. The mother puts both hands over her mouth and sobs once, silent, as if the ceiling instructed her not to make a mess. An hour, Malik says, voice steadying. We can use that. Kai nods. He doesn't move for a heartbeat, as if the room hasn't given him permission yet. Then he steps back. The fine threads in the air snap without sound. The cost lands, not theatrically. No stumble, no noble collapse. Just a micro flicker. His left hand trembles once, like a moth remembering itself. He tucks it into his pocket before the tremor can tell stories. He turns and finds me against the wall. For a breath, he looks like a man who forgot he had an audience. New protocol, I say lightly to keep from saying anything honest. No heroics without memo. He almost smiles. Duly noted. Malik's eyes cut between us. He says to me, as if we're mid-conference instead of mid-witness, politicians break systems, patients break anyway. He hates both kinds of breaking. Politics is the cheaper fix, I say. It's still glue, Malik answers. Movement pulls at the corner of the room. An orderly with a cart has been standing too still for too long, the way people do when their body is waiting for orders their mind shouldn't give. His breath is wrong, shallow in the inhale, too measured on the exhale. It's the rhythm of rehearsal, not life. Lena told me she had eyes on another tech. My body tells me this one is the performance. He eases one hand under the cart's tray toward a bandage drawer that doesn't need opening. My skin prickles again, this time without holy pretense. Don't, I say, not loud. The man freezes. Not natural. Then he keeps going, but his face changes first, not his hand, so I know I'm right. Stop, Kai says. That careful softness gone. His voice is a line drawn with a blade. The man tears the drawer anyway. There's no gun. There's a device the size of a pack of gum, lime plastic dressed like hospital equipment. He palms it like he's rehearsed the lie 50 times. Malik swears. The mother flinches. I move. The dry pulse breath slides into place. 2 steps, twist, compression on the wrist. Old tricks that earned me loyalty and enemies. He drops the device. It bounces. I kick it under the cart, heel pinning it like a beetle. Lena arrives in the doorway so fast, I think she broke a law of geometry. Hands, she says to the orderly. Voice a scalpel. He shows them. They're clean now that they're not. Kai doesn't bark. He doesn't perform dominance. He points to the cameras and says, "Playback." The wall obliges. An hour shrinks to a minute, the orderly hovering when he shouldn't, touching things no one asked him to, eyes cutting. Even his mistakes have edges. "Who sent you?" Kai asks. The man licks his lip like the truth tastes bad. "I was told to test gaps." "Accuracy test," Lena says, lip curling. She produces a wafer and slides it under the device. The wafer changes color, not explosive, not chemical. Signal jammer. Pain spike and panic in the medical wing, and our comms go blind. Cute. "Lorik?" Malik asks. "Or one of his feeding fish," Kai says. He flicks his gaze to the mother. "We'll handle this elsewhere." "No," she says. Very polite and very firm. "Handle it here. I want to see what elsewhere looks like." Kai inclines his head, a small bow of respect he doesn't give often. He turns back to the orderly. "You will tell me 3 things. Who handed you the jammer? Where the next one is supposed to be placed? And the phrase you were told to say if questioned." The man clamps his mouth. Kai's voice doesn't sharpen, it thins. "Lying to me is an injury you will have to live with. I don't recommend collecting them." The man cracks, not with a confession, but with a flinch that admits he has one. "Laundry chute. 2nd floor. The liaison's aide. The phrase is routine audit." Lena's smile is all teeth and paperwork. "Thank you for your cooperation." Gently, Kai says, and that one word reroutes the next 10 things that might have happened. No cuffs. No shouting. Lena escorts, and the cameras record a fact instead of a spectacle. The mother looks at the device under the cart and then at Kai, as if calibration is gratitude. "You said an hour. We'll make it 2, he says, like a man promising weather. Later, the courtyard breathes us out, stone and green, a fountain that laughs under its breath. Evening pretends not to be night yet, but the first star has already confessed. We sit on the low wall around the fountain. I can feel the day wearing thin where it touches my skin. I can feel him wearing thin where he pretends not to. "Why do you do it?" I ask. "The impulse." "Because I can," he says. "That's not a reason," I say. "That's a capacity." He considers the water. "Because I remember what it's like to need a different outcome than the math allows." "And the price?" He flexes his left hand like it's a secret. "Manageable." "Lie," I say. "It doesn't taste like nickel. It tastes like protection." He turns his head. The light makes a soft geometry out of his profile. "You know I could break you," he says, almost conversational. "You know I wouldn't give you the pleasure," I answer, equally mild. Silence. The fountain narrates restraint. "Fortunately," he says after a beat, "that's not what I'm after." The night climbs the walls. The back of my wrist itches under cloth where a bandage peeks from the maze's celebration. He notices. Of course he does. He reaches without the authority of a command and reties the loose knot with 2 efficient motions, fingers careful not to make a promise they can't keep. Heat snaps through me, ridiculous, kinetic. A flare I log under danger. The bandage lies cleaner. My pulse does not. "Do you keep an archive?" I ask, because humor is the only tool I trust around. "Sparks of apologies to everyone you've irritated with your calm." "It's too large to print," he says. "Uploaded to the cloud." "I don't believe in clouds," he says. "Because you can't control the weather. Because they pretend to be weightless," he says, with that almost smile that gives away exactly nothing and too much. We stand. The fountain applauds no one. On the balcony at night, the city is a quiet animal. The map in his office is the brain, this is the breath. Traffic combs the avenues. Far away, a siren declines to be relevant. The air tastes like metal cooling. Malik finds us there. He holds out 2 paper cups that could be coffee and are not. "Electrolytes," he says. "No salt shaker." "Boring," I say. "And drink." It tastes like citrus having second thoughts. Malik waits until the night drapes around us and then leans close enough that the cameras have to work for it. "To me, not to Kai," he whispers. He burns himself to do it. He isn't eternal. Something changes in my chest, small and decisive. like a file renaming itself. My motivations have always been clean: survive, don't bend, find the edge, and teach it your name. Now there's a new line in the script, written in a hand I don't trust and can't ignore. Noted, I say. Which is not at all what it is. Kai watches the city, as if it can keep its promises. I look at him and think, I know how to guard assets, even when they insist on being men. The night goes wrong, the way glass goes wrong. First with a hairline hum you can't place, then with a shiver you can't misinterpret. I'm on the east perimeter when the air tightens. The hedge sighs, as if it knows a secret. A second later, the windows along the gallery tremble in their frames. Somewhere, metal scrapes metal, the kiss before a fight. Contact, Lena snaps over comms, clipped enough to give steel lessons. North and east, civilians to sanctuary, teams 1 and 3. The rest of her sentence drowns in the first dull thump of a breaching charge. Smoke boils upward, quick and professional. It tastes like solder and spite. Dry pulse. The world narrows and clarifies. My feet remember where not to step. I count the breaths of the men coming over the wall. Micro pauses in the inhale that mean gear. The short exhale that means nerves. The held breath that means now. 3 on the cedar line, I say, already moving. 2 on the lower path, heavier boots. 1 floater, watch the roof ridge. Copy, Lena barks. Children moving. Do not let them break the red corridor. The red corridor, Rive's favorite bedtime story. I run anyway, because rules are for nights when nobody is screaming. From the control room, Kai's voice cuts through the net, calm enough to make the fire alarms apologize. East cameras to thermal. Jam channel 5. Feed false pings on the south lawn pattern 3. If they're listening, we'll give them a concert. The house responds, eager. Lights on the map in his office, I imagine, reweave themselves into a new logic. I don't need to see the lattice to feel it, the way he shapes information into a barricade, the way doors agree or refuse at his word. I hit the first man at the corner of the hedgerow. He's expecting bulk. I give him angles, elbow to wrist, twist, the quiet crack that means later he'll tell a story about a ghost. He goes down. The second comes in high with a baton and meets my shoulder instead. Of my skull, pain flares white hot, then falls into a manageable red. 2 diverted, I say. Breath even. 1 still stupid. Sanctuary sealed. Lena's voice cuts in. If you're not with a child, get between 1 and a problem. Copy, Kai says, and the room he's in hums agreement through the floor. At least, that's how it feels, the building an animal he's taught to heal. I move along the gravel path toward the eastern service door. Smoke licks at the lawn like a bored animal. I catch the glint of a visor in the dark, roofline, and throw a stone where my face is not. The visor swings toward the noise. I take his feet out from under him with a length of hose some landscaper left coiled like an afterthought. He falls into a bed of rosemary, curses like a poet with a head injury, and goes still. North breach failed. Someone snarls on a channel that thinks it's private. Kai folds it into ours with a polite cough of code. North breach failed. He agrees pleasantly. Would you like to try west? We've prepared snacks. A different voice answers, ruined with nicotine and pride. Cut him out, it says. Cut the house out of his hands. Jammer, I say. At the same time Lena does. They'll try the central spine. Already watching, Kai says, and I can hear the map changing shape as he speaks. We'll mislabel the spine. If they cut comms there, we'll still talk. Teams, adjust to reroute E. Sanctuary remains insulated. I reach the service door and find 2 men arguing with a keypad. I give them a third opinion, a knee to the floating ribs of the one on the left, a palm strike up the nose of the one on the right. Blood paints his teeth like a bad decision. He swings wild. I step in, spoiling his leverage, and put him to sleep against the doorframe. The bracelets take notes. My shoulder complains, my body signs a waiver. Security to med. Malik's voice breaks in, strained. We've got smoke in the intake hall. The kids are afraid of masks. We need... On it, Lena interrupts, not asking for permission. I'm coming. Negative, Kai says, and his tone does not rise. It returns. You stay on the board, Lena. You're the only one who can read it fast enough. I'll send Rive and 2 from logistics. Rive is a housekeeping thesis, Lena growls. Rive is order, Kai says. And children like order. He'll get them moving. I grin despite the taste of copper. Send the furniture, I say into the comms, breathless and alive. He's good at doors. Focus, Lena snaps. But her voice is half a degree warmer. Somewhere, she is proving herself the way she's always wanted to. Not by punishing noise, but by conducting it. The fight concertinas, close, then far, then inside my lungs. I move with the rhythm of it. Kai moves the map. At some point, we fall into the same beat without meaning to. I turn at a corner because the air tells me to. A door unlocks because he decides it should. A guard I can't see chooses my side because Lena leaned on a lever only she understands. It's not magic. It feels like it. A resonance, not a bond, a corridor of coincidence we didn't build, just stepped into. Left, Kai says, once, when my foot almost goes right. I go left. The baton sings past my ear. I catch the arm it's attached to and help its owner reconsider his career choices. South Garden clear, Lena says, too fast to be lying. Roof team down by 3. Sanctuary stable. A shape resolves in the smoke to my right. Fast, low, smart. He leads with a knife and a promise. I give him a lie. I show him my throat and keep my hands innocent until the last inch, then ruin his day with a forearm and a moral. He gasps. The knife skitters. My shoulder surges white again. When I stand, the world is a little skewed. Niko, Kai says, not as a command, not as a label, as a name. No iron in it. It hits harder than any baton. I'm here, I say, voice drier than the pulse. Hold doorway 6, he says. We're closing the spine behind you. If they cut the wrong wire, we won't need to explain ourselves to IT in the morning. Copy, I say, and brace the door with my body like I used to brace men who thought they were alone. The last push fails the way bad ideas fail, slowly, then at once. A jammer fizzles. A charge decides the wall is a friend after all. 2 of their own call retreat. The 3rd argues and loses to basic math. Feet hammer backward. Smoke thins into an ugly perfume. Silence arrives like a verdict. The comms breathe. The bracelets hum as if they'd like to clap. I sag against the door, and only then notice how the blood has drawn a crooked map down my sleeve. My shoulder complains in a language that will require Malik's fluency. When I try to roll it, something sharp in there argues. Report, Lena demands, already moving through her checklist. Perimeter? Secure, I say. Sanctuary? Secure, Rive says, warm with a pride he will never cite on a resume. The children were exemplary. Medical? Prepared, Malik says. Send me whoever thinks bleeding is conversational. I make it to the control room before anyone can decide I belong on a stretcher. The board glows with Kai's version of the truth. Lines reknit, doors back to their loyalties, the house smoothing its fur. He stands in the middle of it, jacket off, sleeves pushed, the tremor in his left hand almost a theory. When he turns and sees me, the calm obeys him for one more moment. Then it slips. Just a fraction. Niko. It lands in me like a coin dropped into a well that knows exactly how deep it is. Why didn't you run? He asks. No rebuke. Real question. Because someone had to cover your perfect ass, I say. For a second, the room forgets what it is. Kai laughs. A sound like a door opening onto Whether You Want. Lena looks up, startled into something like respect. Even the board seems to brighten. Med, Malik says from the doorway, raising an eyebrow that belongs in a different genre. Before all this sincerity stains the floor, I sit on a table while he excavates my shoulder. His hands are quick. His mouth is quicker. Clean tear, he says. You can keep your arm. Try not to make me regret the gift. Regret is wasted energy, I tell him, and wince as he threads the needle. Ow. Scientific term, he says. Hold still. Lena leans in the doorway, arms crossed, pretending this is a security audit. She doesn't look at me while she talks to Kai. Fine, she says. He's worth the risk. It's as close to a benediction as I'll ever get from her. I salute with my good hand. From the goddess of do not touch, I'll take it. Don't make me reconsider, she answers, but there's no heat in it. Kai watches Malik tie the last suture as if the knot holds a thesis. I watch Kai watching me and realize my calculus has been quietly rewriting itself since. The medical wing, since the fountain, since Malik whispered that he isn't eternal. We spill into humor because that's the only way to stop emotion from flooding the room. Well, I say, glancing at my shirt, which looks like I argued with a butcher. Who wears blood better? You, obviously, Malik says. Dramatic omega. Built-in marketing. Counterpoint, I say, tipping my chin at Kai's cuff, where a discreet arc of someone else's injury has dried into elegance. He's an ice aesthetic. Minimalist homicide. Kai looks at his sleeve, as if he's considering a trend report. We'll call it evidence of work, he says. Or foreplay, Malik mutters, just loud enough to be a crime. I throw a gauze pad at his head. He catches it without looking. When the laughter thins, the quiet comes back with sharper teeth. The map in the control room keeps humming. The house settles. The children in sanctuary, I hope, sleep. I flex my stitched shoulder and feel the pull, a warning and an invitation. I'm so tired of obeying other people's definitions of rescue. I'm so tired of being useful only as long as someone else picks the verb. Kai, I say, and the name is a slice that lets the thing under it breathe. He looks at me, and for once there's no wall of policy between us. Just a man who spends himself like currency he isn't sure he can mint again tomorrow. I have something, I say. A truth. The kind that changes a board more than a battle. The room listens. Even Lena stills. I'll give it to you, I continue. Slow, because this is the sort of line you only get to draw once. But not as an asset. Not as a prisoner who's learned to like the good tea. What then? He asks. As an ally, I say. No leash, no ownership, no polite gas. Dares. I swallow, correct myself. Because words matter. A-S-O-Y-U-Z, 2 centers. We do the math together, or I keep my variables. The corner of his mouth doesn't move. Everything else in him does. Lena's eyes narrow in the way of a woman who understands contracts better than signatures. Malik makes a soft sound that might be a prayer or a science. Terms, Kai says. We write them, I answer, and tap my bandaged shoulder. After I stop leaking, he considers me the way you consider a skyline you might want to own if owning didn't ruin things. Then he nods. Temporary, he says, because he's himself. For now, I agree, because I'm me. The map hums. The house breathes. The night remembers it has edges. And inside the calm, a door I've kept shut for years moves under my hand, ready to open if the deal is real. The gray sector smells like dust that learned to keep secrets. Files sleep in boxes with polite labels. Lights stay dim, as if brightness would confess. My bracelet warms against my skin when the lock reads the temporary access Kai granted. 36 hours, which in this house feels like a promise with a stopwatch. I pull 3 boxes from 3 different shelves, because truth travels better when it doesn't know it's being followed. Transfers routed through charities that don't exist, invoices for services no one would request, endowments that go in circles until they forget what they were funding. The paper is careful. The pattern isn't. Explain it to me as if I'm stubborn, Kai says. He stands with his jacket unbuttoned, sleeves rolled, the tremor in his left hand barely a rumor. Miles hovers near the door, pretending to be part of the wall. Lorik didn't kill your former leader, I say. He subcontracted the idea. He paid a cousin to pay a man to recruit a boy to leave a door open. The boy thinks he held a handle. The cousin thinks he paid for leverage. The man thinks he's a ghost. Lorik knows the math looks unprovable. Your enemies enjoy this kind of distance. And your former superior? Kai asks. His voice is even, but the air thins a fraction. I lay down a 4th file, the one I pulled last because I am a coward in very specific ways. He signed off on a security purge the same week as the transfer. He didn't order the murder. He built the stage, and rented the lights. Miles exhales a syllable that might be a curse if you cracked it open. I can put these in front of a committee, he says, already calculating the angles of daylight. But they'll ask for a demonstration. Paper is theater. They want blood. We won't give them blood, Kai says. He touches the top folder like it might be sleeping. We'll give them a procedure. Public reading, I say, of the artifacts. Miles looks at me, all diplomat. You believe in that, right? I don't believe in anything that can't be faked, I say. But I believe in protocol, and I add, tapping my closed aura with 2 fingers, can stand in the room without contaminating the read. Clean witness, Miles says softly. Respect sneaking in. We'll need sanctioned readers. 3. No one Laura can buy. Kai can pick them, I say. He still has more favors than enemies. For the moment, Kai agrees, as if it's weather, not politics. He looks at the files the way a man looks at a map and sees not roads, but choices. We do this quickly. No door left open. No door left open. I tasted a door once, on a bad night. A brass handle. A hallway. A choice I regretted the moment my palm cooled. My former superior's face floats up from the paper. Polished, patient, convinced that the city loves the kinds of men who schedule disasters and call it order. My shoulder pulls under its sutures. A practical reminder that I prefer different verbs now. Okay, I say. Let's invite the city to a clean ending. The council chamber is a theater which refuses to admit it. Stone arc, wood benches, a dais built to make men taller. The 3 readers arrive like weather systems disguised as people. An old woman whose eyes don't miss wrists, a young man whose stillness belongs to a sharper era, and a middle-aged lawyer whose aura tastes like iron filings and chamomile tea. They set their hands on the artifacts, gloves, pen, ledger, and breathe until the room stops pretending it's safe. Procedure, the head reader says. Present the chain. Miles steps forward first, because rehabilitation wears best when you walk on it. He does not look at Lorik in the upper right benches, or at the men beside him in suits that smell like clean knives. He looks at the readers and says, cleanly, Exhibit A, ledger from the Hesse Foundation Auxiliary account. Notarized extracts. Exhibit B, donation channeling memo, unsigned. Exhibit C, security purge authorization, internal, countersigned. He places each object into the circle marked on the table. I stand at the edge of that circle, the closed book in a room that prefers open pages. The readers glance at me, then away, satisfied that my presence is a steady absence. The old woman lays a palm on the ledger. Her mouth, lined and fierce, softens with the expression people get when they read a childish lie and choose to be lenient. Fear, she says, borrowed authority. The signatures don't know what they mean. This one, she taps near a name, convinced himself it was hygiene. The young man touches the memo. His voice is music, refusing to be pretty. No hand on the knife, he says. But the room is full of men who move the table closer to the door. The lawyer picks up the purge authorization with both hands. Her shoulders square to the weight of bureaucratic harm. Complicity by proximity, she says. Enough for sanction. If you ask for blood, you ask the wrong question. Ask for channels. Lorik speaks for the first time, the vowels lacquered in money. This is theater, he says mildly, as if he's bored by the quality. We cannot let ritual replace proof. You brought the boy who held the door, I say, before I can stop myself. The words land like a thrown glass that does not have the decency to shatter. The boy sits behind Lorik, too pale, too small in a suit that belongs to a larger future. He won't meet my eyes. Don't, the old woman says to me, not unkindly. She returns her palm to the paper. We are here to speak of currents, not corpses. Silence folds outward. The readers speak in turns, steady as a loom. The story braids itself from their hands, money that walked like a man, signatures that ordered the air to look innocent, meetings that never wrote minutes because the minutes could learn to talk. The council listens, like a congregation forced into intelligence. When they are done, the chamber feels taller. Kai steps into the space between thought and decision. He does not raise his voice. He does not lean on his aura. He names the sanctions as if he's listing ingredients for a sober meal. Loss of status, closure of channels, audit of affiliates, expulsion of a cousin who thinks kinship is legal immunity. He does not say revenge. He says repair. Lorik's allies try to move it to muscle anyway. 2 men stand, 2 more follow, eyes cutting toward exits. The choreography of a scene they rehearsed in a mirror. The house guards at the rear do not shift their weight. Lena is in the corner, looking bored and lethal. Miles at my shoulder, breathes once like a man tasting the moment he might become the thing he wanted to be. Don't, the head reader says again, this time to the room at large. The word lands with the weight of signed laws. The men sit, sullen as furniture. Votes happen. They are not unanimous. They are enough. It ends without applause. The ledger goes back in its box. The memo returns to its forced anonymity. The purge authorization looks smaller. Outside the chamber, a hallway remembers its only stone. Miles touches my elbow, the kind of contact that, in another life, would precede an apology. You bought me a room, he says. I'll try not to waste it. I didn't buy it, I say. I just pointed at the door. Same difference, he says, and goes to arrange a future that won't hate him as much as the last one did. Kai and I walk without talking. The bracelets murmur against my skin, as if they've been practicing what they're about to say. In his office, the map hums in a new key. On the table lies a small case I haven't seen before. He opens it. Bracelet keys look like nothing, thin tools for a mechanical fiction. He lifts my left wrist with the kind of care that has nothing to do with weakness and everything to do with choice. You're free, he says. The first click is an echo. The second is a breath. The bands loosen and step away from my skin, 2 rings of quiet falling into his palm. Heat fills my chest, ridiculous and clean. I hadn't realized how much I'd edited myself around the weight. The skin under the metal tingles, like a limb remembering blood. Freedom, I say, because I can't not. It's an excellent reason to come back. The corner of his mouth tilts. Is that what you're doing? Considering my options, I say. Evaluating coffee. Important metric, he says gravely. We climb to the roof, in a dawn that smells like wet stone and relief. The city below has the soft look of a bruised eye that will heal. Traffic is a rumor. Somewhere, a bird insists on optimism. We stand where the ledge makes the world a clean line. The wind lifts his hair and then politely sets it back down. I put my wrists on the parapet. Bare skin tasting morning. Terms, I say. He nods. No marks, no ownership, I add. No masks, he says after a beat. I look at him. He meets it. The roof keeps our secrets. The sun decides to show up. We are not a show, I say. Not a pair for gossip or leverage. We're a system with 2 centers, he says, voice low with the rare soft that is not weakness. Points of gravity that happen to agree. And we sleep together, I add, because I'm tired of pretending I don't want to, because humor is my only armor, because honesty is a tool like any other, because it would be unsafe for others. For others, he agrees, and finally lets the smile happen. The real one. The one that makes the map in my ribs redraw itself. The quiet stretches, the good kind. I hear cups clink in a kitchen several floors below, as if the house is already gossiping about our terms. I clear my throat. Hypothetical, I say. If one of us were to confess a preference for the other's coffee, would that be considered surrender? Absolutely, he says. Irretrievable. Then I'm not saying it, I decide. Nor am I, he says. We shake on it anyway, like idiots who plan their mornings as if the city will oblige. For a ridiculous second, I imagine a calendar entry recurring. Coffee, joint custody. Wind moves. The sun finds a crack in the clouds and pours a thin coin of light across the roof. Kai leans on the parapet beside me, looking at the city like a man who intends to keep it from mistaking cruelty for order. Respect brought me this far. Trust built a bridge. Attraction sharpened the line. Choice walks it. They'll say I'm his omega. They always do. They like stories that stack easy. The truth is less photogenic and far more interesting. We are 2 predators who got bored being lonely.